Okay, lovely. Welcome. Welcome to the webinar. I see a lot of you turned up today. This is record numbers. So every time we do one of these, it seems to get more popular. Hopefully it's because it's more and more useful to people. So that's fantastic. So thank you very much indeed for giving your time up this morning to go through this with me. I hope you'll get a lot out of it. I'm always around for questions. Or for a discussion, should you want to carry on the conversation at any point. This is available to download. There will be outputs of this, which Lucy will send on to you. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to make this quite participatory, so be prepared for me to ask you to put up your hand. Have a look now, see if you can see where you can put up your hand. There's a hand raising thingy, little thing you can click. So if you want to have a go at that, that'd be good. I can see that you've all got the hang of the hand click raising thing. Oh, thank you very much. Perfect. Really quick. Yeah, Adair, you're first. Well done, mate. And others following. Oh, and again. Brilliant. You keep putting it up. This is good. So we're going to be seeing how you're all feeling about various things. We'll be typing stuff in. It's going to be a poll, all sorts of things. So do use the chat. I'll try and keep half my eye on the screen, half my eye on the camera, and the other half of my eyes on what you're typing in. So yeah, all good. So if you have any technical difficulties or whatever, just type it in, and we'll see what we can do to resolve them. Other than that, let's go. Okay, cool. So you're here for increasing the influence of insights departments. Obviously, a subject extremely close to my heart. I've worked for 30 plus years in this industry. I've tried to leave it a couple of times and not succeeded, always come back. So yes, so while I am still doing, and I'm now actually sort of diverting away, I suppose, from it in terms of now delivering work with all teams on collaboration and influence, I'm obviously going to have a soft spot for insights, aren't I? So let's make a start and see what we've got here now. So how has the influence of the department changed through the years? If we have a think about it, even look at the job titles, you can start to see that there's something going on. Go right back to the 1980s, where you may have turned up for work like this, maybe not. You called the market research department. By the 1990s, you were the insights and planning department. This is a time when the insights and the advertising planners used to work very closely together, and when marketing was king. The year 2000's Consumer Insights Department, you see the word planning's kind of been dropped. And obviously, as they say, your results may differ. Your department might have called something else, and you might be moving slightly in different direction. But as a momentum, this is not just my experience, but I've been canvassing a lot of experiences of people across the industry, and this is where they're at too. So 2010s, we're now consumer insights and analytics. And by the time we move into what I'm seeing now more and more, in fact, is analytics and insights. And obviously there are implications for all of that in terms of what we do, who we do it for, how we do it, and how we get recognized. And that is probably what we're talking about today. The move to analytics is obviously an extremely good thing for the business. It's inevitable. It's obviously an extremely good thing for the business. But the question is, how do you make it really count and really pay and make sure that you've still got that amount of influence in the business that you had, 10, 20 years ago? Let's have another look. Cool. Good. So what are the changes impacting your role right now, your business, your world? So type in for me things that you think are impacting the business, how your job and department have changed over the last 10 years. For those of you working on supply side who've been good enough to join us as well today, so thank you for that. That's great. You're concerned about what your clients are going through and how you can help. There's no better thing to be able to do. What do you think has been going on in the last 10 years in your department, and what's changed? So can we see if we can get some responses in there? What do you think? And obviously I pointed out the analytics, but anything else? Oh, yes, absolutely. Georgina says speed of decisions and actions is just getting faster and faster. And Georgina, I can tell you, 20 years ago, we used to say, surely it can't get any faster than this. And it still is. And what are the difficulties, apart from actually just making deadlines? What are the implications of the fact that you have to work this fast? What do you lose out in some way? What suffers? Is there a suffering that happens as a result of this? Anybody wants to type in? Yeah, cool. Yes, Shilpi, quality. Yeah, less patience for traditional research projects. Its complexity suffers, all of those sorts of things. And what about the rise of UX and how fast that works, and that as a benchmark for how fast we're working? So if that turns out to be what the business expects, what does that actually mean? Yeah, and the split between CX and insights. Yes, extraordinary how that even came about, isn't it? I bet there were insights departments out there who didn't even know that the CX existed until suddenly people are walking into their offices, sort of their own body weight in Post-it notes, and everyone's calling themselves designers. Definitely, I can definitely tell you that there were definitely CX departments who had no idea there were insights departments that existed. And one of the reasons for this, is that I love all this conversation. Good, keep typing. One of the reasons for this is that CX has come out of operations and insights came out traditionally through marketing. And there's always been a split through marketing and operations. Hopefully we can get that resolved, but kind of the insights and CX are hanging off the coattails of operations and marketing, and because they're not integrated, so like neither are we. So requirement to be more embedded in the business with stakeholders and colleagues to ensure research drives action and change rather than just information. Absolutely, and hopefully that's what I'm going to be able to help you with here today. Yes, this is a webinar. I'm hoping to deliver as much value as I can in the time. I'm also going to be sharing with you what you can do to work with me if you'd like to take this further, and actually I can help you drive the changes in your department and get you the benefits that you deserve to have. We'll do that right at the end. Let's see how much value we can get in first. So that's the first thing. So the next thing is to ask you, so this is my understanding of it. Yes, democratization of the consumer. Everybody is now a consumer expert. The rise of UX, CX, the rise of analytics, the reduction in budgets, and this is just constant. The demise of marketing. If initially market research and insights were on the coattails of marketing, if marketing have become, instead of a strategy department, a communications department, and they're sliding down, and there's fewer CMOs on the board, then obviously insights is going to be falling down. Even if you're climbing up, the actual ladder is slipping. So that's a big deal. A move from strategy to tactics, a move from big ideas to tweaking. But how will your department change in the next 5 years? Can you give me some ideas? Because change is going to be what happens. This isn't like where it stops. This is just, you know, we're always in a midpoint, always in beta, as they say. So what do you reckon is going to be happening in the next 5 years? You turn your clock forward, it's 5 years' time. What do you reckon? Who's got some answers for me on that one? Perhaps a harder question, but it's important to acknowledge that we're always moving and always changing. So here are some ideas from me. Some continued rise. Oh, lovely. Okay, requirement. Yes, greater incorporation with analytics on actual consumer behaviour and big data. Absolutely. I mean, I think it was probably a bit of a shock to the whole company and industry that when you actually got big data, it didn't solve itself, and that actually you're going to have to employ an awful lot of people to interpret it to make business decisions. So yeah, are we going to be continued rise of analytics? And one thing I think we need to be really aware of in Australia, and a couple of you are not from Australia actually, but that analytics may well be offshored. It also may be more and more technically possible to take analytics further and make it more useful than it currently is. So yeah, and more data to deal with, absolutely, and more confusion. Yeah, absolutely. So there's an awful lot of confusion. And, you know, while we are getting so much data, look, it's been said pretty much since I started in this business that people are not short of information. They're short of what to do with it. They're short of meaning. And that was then, and that was a minuscule amount of information versus what you actually have today. So yeah, Insights team no longer owns the research process. Absolutely. We've lost, I mean, it's obviously, I presume I'm older than most of you, and I've seen this, but we have lost an awful lot of the ownership of the consumer, driving the business from the center. We're more in the back room, less in the boardroom. Awful lot of things have happened, and they're continuing to happen. And while, of course, information and analytics should be what's driving the business, it seems that we're not. So, what is going on here? So what about the next 2 years? Further reduction in the involvement of decision making, reduce in influence. Is that happening too? So whatever you see is happening now, just presume it's going to carry on unless somebody turns it round. And if we don't see it turning round, it's going to be more so in 2 years' time. And a lot of what I'm going to be talking about in this webinar is, do you want to control which way this spiral is going? Because it's going to keep going. Motion is its natural state. So let's have a look. So insights were at the center of business. They were driving the business from the center. Are they still? Do you want to put your hands up? Do you think, put your hands up if you think we're still right at the center of the business, the core, the driving force of the business? What do we reckon? Anybody want to put their hands up for that one? Let's see what you've got. Don't know. That's all I'm getting from here. All right. Not so sure about whether or not we're really still at the center of business. Or, as I said, put your hands up if you think you are. Probably not. Not anymore. Absolutely. And I think that is a huge shame. I'd like you to imagine, see this lovely chart here. I'd like you to imagine that I have this magic wand in my hand and I can make you and your department massively influential in the business. So obviously, you know, I don't have a magic wand, but let's imagine for the moment that I do have this magic wand and I can make the business, make you massively influential in the business. What would it be like to have a lot of influence and impact in your organization? You type me in some answers. What do you think? What would it be like? It would be logical. Yeah, thank you. It would be a logical step. Of course, it's a logical step, which means that there's something that's not quite right. We should most definitely be in there. We would be involved earlier in business strategies. Yes, absolutely. How infuriating is it that you get asked to, offer to solve, to solve a problem for people, but you sit, well, I wouldn't have started here. You brought me in too late to do a good job. And, those sorts of compromises, that's not what the business is paying you for. The business is paying you to make major differences, but somehow the potential of insights is just being, cut back by the way that people use us. So involved in business strategy, earlier, greater access to CEO and in leadership teams, absolutely. And this is the way that it was. I don't know, you don't want to know that, and you can never go back. You can never go back. But, the question is, what can you do going forward? Because this is a phenomenal power that Insights has to identify opportunities for growth and to problem solve and to drive growth in the business. And it's just not, it's being put to one side as I see it over the course. So it happens a lot. What should we do? Yeah, absolutely. Let's get Insights. Let's drop it on Insights. Yeah, that's a nice one. She'll be saying, yeah, this happens a lot. People say, what should we do? Let's drop it on Insights and let them solve it. Yeah, and then, things like, let's just ask them because we don't want to make a decision, or let's ask them because of the political situation, or let's just ask them to test these ideas when actually the ideas are not very good because the strategy is not very good and should have been brought in at the beginning. So all of those sorts of things. So let's have a look at what's going on here with this and see if we can do this. So let's just have a quick look at what role your stakeholders think your department plays. So I'm drawing you a ladder here. From sort of the worst case scenario to the best case scenario. So the first level is that your stakeholders, isn't what you think you are, it's what your stakeholders think you are in terms of the role you play. Are you a support? You provide information when requested, you carry out tasks with insufficient context. That's not because you don't want it, but because they haven't given it to you, or because the people who they've given to brief you don't actually know it. So the problem with that is that, respect for the department and reward for the department becomes less, and you're overworked and you're under-resourced, and, you've got a lot of staff churn, and, no one's very happy because nobody took their job to do that. Second one is, you're a team member. You provide knowledge within context, but it's still a siloed role. So as you say, you're not sure whether or not the project's happening or it's not happening, but you get called in at a point that you think is not the best point for you to make a major difference. So you don't have any control over what you're doing and how you're doing it. And your task not purpose-focused. The third one, you start to be making more of a difference here. So I'm saying 5 times respect and reward. For those of you who are extremely strongly analytical and numerical, you may object to the fact that I've actually got numbers in here, but I'm trying to just talk about the dimensions and the levels of magnitude. So this is an expert level. So that, this is a good place to be. You provide advice when senior strategists require it. And so the senior strategists are talking to you and asking you for advice, and you get, your budgets are protected to some extent. You've got a satisfying work environment and a say in how it's done. But really what this department is capable of doing is being business leaders, providing business solutions, always at the decision-making table, leading the discussions at a senior level. I mean, how can it be that so many CEOs over the past forever, frankly, have said the consumer is at the heart of our business? If that's the case, why isn't the Insights department at the heart of the business? It just doesn't make any sense. We every right to be there, and we have everything, all the tools in our toolkit to be able to deliver huge value to the organization. So, if you're here, you'll get increased budgets. Of course you will, because you'll be able to deliver right to the bottom line, to get more prestigious work. You decide when and how you work, because if you have that amount of value in the organization, then people will say, well, what's the best way to help you deliver the best value that you can? And you also get autonomy, you get a sense of mastery because you're stretching your skills, and a stronger sense of purpose. So, all good. So what I want to do now is I'm going to launch a little poll, and let's see. You just need to vote. You'll be voting anonymously. So don't worry, no one else will be able to see. I am able to see what you, which level you choose for your department. And this is for your department, not for you, but nobody else will, and I won't reveal it, of course. But if you'd like to vote, I will do this, launch poll. Hopefully you can see it. Da, da, da. Good. Who's voting? Cool. Excellent. This is great. Good. Okay. So far, on a small number, level 2 is winning. And there's nobody on level 4. So yeah, we have the numbers a bit stable now. So yeah, we have 50% at level 2, 33% at level 3, and 17% at level 1. Okay, so there's work to be done now, isn't there? So that's good. You will get that table with the outputs at the end of the webinar. Cool. So next thing. Right. So the solution is in your hands, and it does need acting on as soon as possible, because the spiral is either working for you or against you. So the question is, which way is your spiral turning? Is it turning in a virtuous circle way or a vicious circle way? Are you getting more budget, so you get more staff, suppliers, training, self-determination? You're able to be given then opportunities for rewarding important work, and you can increase your mastery, and you can get career progression. Then you start to perform even better, then you get a higher profile as a result, and therefore you get better budgets, and so it goes around that way. Or are we really moving the other way, where your budgets are decreasing, your opportunity is going down, the important work seems to be going elsewhere, the performance is therefore struggling. I mean, one of the things that's really clear is at the moment, there are some people out there who are saying, I would love to do more strategic work, but at the moment I haven't got the staff to do it. I'm kept busy enough as it is. And that's true, but something needs to happen to turn that around. Are you, your profile going up in the organization or down the organization, and what can you do to change that? So let's have a look at that. So I've got 4 drivers of influence in the organization, and really this is about effectiveness. I don't want you to think about this influence as being some sort of sneaky thing you do. I myself are absolutely appalling at politics, but I do consider that I'm very effective in getting things done in an organization, and I always believe that this is the way to do it, and this is what I train, is to do these things. So let me give you a bit of an idea about the sorts of things you can do within this. The first is positioning. Now, I'm sure most of you are very well aware of what positioning is with regard to brands or your business or whatever, but this is positioning with regard to you and your department. Who do you say you are? And how do you deliver? If you build your positioning around purpose, I don't know how many of you have seen or read Simon Sinek's book about Start With Why. I think sometimes that can go a bit extreme, and you start off, end up with, if you're not careful, world peace as your purpose. But I think it's definitely worth looking above the what to the why. So some people have said, oh, we've definitely got a purpose in our organization. We deliver X to Y. That's a what, it's not a why. So you need to think about a why. When you've got a why, several things happen. First of all, according to the LinkedIn study, when you've got a added sense of purpose, apparently people would trade a proportion of their salary to continue in their current role. I'm not suggesting necessarily use that, but I'm trying to indicate as how powerful that can really be. Now, your purpose on a sheet of paper is worth nothing. And your purpose told to other people is really only worth something if it changes what they get from you and how you work. So really this is about delivering if this is our purpose, therefore what should we be doing more of, what should we be doing less of, how are we going to manage that? How are we going to be looking at hiring, skills develop, development, the way our documents look, etc. If we were a department that had this this particular positioning, how would we look? How would we always do things? And consistency is incredibly important. Now, importantly, working with a client on this recently, this is all very exciting part of it. The idea of it is all very exciting. And then you think to yourself, okay, we need to be doing more of this. And that's all very well, but you can't do more of this unless you're doing less of something else. And obviously the business is requiring you to do that. So how are you going to manage doing that part with less of your time so that you can do this part, which is the part you think you really need to be doing for your positioning, with more time and resources? Solution focus. I mean, this is actionable research. Just to tell you how far back this goes, this idea of actionable results, absolute research, actionable conclusions and recommendations, etc. I had a company in London, and we put our a research company in London, and we put our details, of course, in the Market Research Society handbook, and everybody else in their details would write lines and lines of things that they did that basically absolutely everybody else did. And they said, we do surveys, we do this, we do that, we do omnibuses, we do UNAs, we do we do groups, we do depths. And you just go, ridiculous. So we decided not to fill, we put one line in, which was more actionable research, and that's all we put in capital letters. And that was, way back in the 90s, really. So a long time ago, but it is still the same as being the most important thing you can do is make this actionable, because without it, there's just no value in what you've done. And when we think about actionable, this is not what you think you can action, but actually when they pick it up, it's almost hard not to do it. It's so clear what they have to do and why. And it's so upfront that they just can't help themselves but do it. If you have a think about data analysis, as I've said, really important job, but it's large volume, it's low worth. The smaller volume, higher worth business is business solutions and opportunities. That is where your influence lies. So that is where you're going to get people taking notice, where you're going to start moving into the center of the engine of the business, etc. So we need to take that data analysis, which of course is ours and which CX does not have. So we have it, but we need to turn it into something that is not the end product. I have to say, I have a bit of a problem with the title of data analysts. Now, this is not because of any disparagement towards data analysts. It's extremely important, very technical, highly skilled job, I know. But it suggests that the analysis of the data is what they're doing, and that's where the job stops. Of course, that's not at all where the job stops. That's pretty much where the job pretty much starts. The next is to say, how do you get a business solution out of this? And then how do you get the business solutions into the business, which is our next one. Stakeholders don't want to pan for gold. So giving them all of the great analysis that you've done, even if they've asked for it, is not very useful. Now, you can give it to them, but you need to take the gold out of it for them and present it in a lovely little package they can pick up. What they want is gold turned into keys before it's handed to them. So not only what is gold, but how should they use it, for which opportunity, why, what it would deliver, etc. It's a commercial piece that we're talking about. We're not talking about X number of people do this or even an incredibly sophisticated version of that. We're talking about the golden keys. We're talking about handing it on in a way that they can pick up and action. They can have a conversation about it if they want. We all know that there are lots of stakeholders who would love to go through the detail. That's great, provide it, but provide it at the back of anything that you're giving them. Always front line with the action, the thing that generates the commercial results. And there are ways to do that, and I train in how you can develop a discipline of doing that. It's not necessarily the easiest task, the skill that comes to mind. Relationship development, really incredibly important. You think about the most influential people in your organization. I presume you'll think that they have good relationships with other people. And the thing with getting us to more and more perhaps to sit in the back room and do our analysis is that we're spending less and less time on relationship development. This is really poor. Now, McKinsey's did a study in 2016, and they found that they predicted that by the year 2030, as well as needing an awful lot more technological skills, we are going to be using 24% more of our hours doing social and emotional skills. Now, you might think to yourself, well, this is not really to do with me because I'm an analyst and the data is what I'm about. But it isn't. Business is people. If you think about what makes something happen or what makes something not happen, the answer is people. And it's a case of getting it through to the person. So building those relationships is incredibly important. You can see here judgment and strategy also being really important. So yeah, very, very important, and something that I think I always lament that people don't train in, because they train in, and they teach business, they train in money and processes and systems. But it's almost as invisible to us because it's the water that we swim in, it's the air that we breathe. But business is people. And we need to be able to see how the cogs work together to be able to get our ideas through. And we need to start to take some feeling of responsibility, or at least intention for us for those commercial solutions, those commercial opportunities to be developed that we're offering forward. I think that is going to be the key of it. And one of the reasons why we've slipped back is that we've said, okay, responsible for the data, and that's kind of the end of it. And surprisingly, there isn't anybody in an organization really who's responsible for implementing insights, and that's always been the problem. So I think if insights is able to step up a bit into that at least, then that makes their path to the future a lot more positive. So over time, the ability to develop strong relationships with stakeholders, do you think as a department that you're currently working in, or as in departments overall that you've worked in, do you think it's gone up or down, this ability to develop strong relationships with stakeholders? Is it a skill that's been developed and honed, or is it one that's become ignored in the light of more and more analytical skills being required? What do you think? Do you want to type it in for me? It looks like they're going down. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, it looks like most people are thinking that it's going down, in that people are not developing those relationships so much and not seeing that as part of their job so much. Cool. Well, not cool. Can your team prioritize and communicate in a way that empowers stakeholders every time? Do we have those skills on board? It's a tricky one. Do we have those skills on board now? Are we taught them? Do we prioritize them? If we're going to be influential, if we're going to be impactful, and most importantly, if we're going to be effective, we're going to need to do that. That's part of what being effective is. It's about getting people on board, harnessing people to your cause. And it's going to be really important, and more important every year, frankly. So let's go back to Ronan Keating. Cool. You're going, why on earth have I got a picture of Ronan Keating in the middle of this? Well, some years ago, I managed to catch this guy on TV. He was on The Voice. And for those people who don't know what The Voice is, it's a show, reality kind of TV show. It's about trying to find the best voice in Australia or wherever, for musical superstars sit in chairs, and they turn the chairs away from the participant. Participant comes and performs. These guys have to press a button to turn around and say, yes, I would like that person on my team. Then once they've got their teams, the four people compete to see whose people are going to win. So everybody wants the best people on their team. So Ronan Keating, so he was on for one season. This is not at all surprising to me. He was really rubbish at getting people to join his team initially, which could only have caused quite a bit of problems from the production team. So when he said, yes, I'd like you on my team, he has to compete against others in the four who've said that they want him. So he started, and he'd say, Okay, so yeah, you should go with me because I've had X number of top 10 hits and I've produced X number of bands and they have produced X number of albums. And you know, as he got more desperate, so he would say, I know more people in the business than any of these. And I know, and it's just when I, and each time the person would choose somebody else from the team. Now, by the third episode or so, I think somebody must have had a bit of a word with him because he changed completely and his fortunes changed with it. So this time he turned around his chair, it was his turn to try and persuade people. He said, you are amazing. You have this voice. You can do this and this with it. I could see how we could work together to help you achieve X or achieve Y. And the word I didn't come into it once. And he started to get people to his team, you know, all was resolved. But it was absolutely excruciating to watch the first 2 episodes because he just saw things in terms of him and not in terms of them. And that is a really great lesson for us to say, this is what we need to do. We need to see our data, our solutions, not in terms of us, but in terms of the recipient. You know, really very important. Cool. So let's have a look at, we move on to cut through communication. So this is a common thing we all need to learn, but you can't possibly be effective without it. Because how can you possibly communicate your thoughts, your ideas? How do you get your data seen by the right people, your solutions taken on board at a high level? Anyone who'd seen the post I put in on LinkedIn this just a couple of days ago will have learned about, I don't think I've got it on here. No, I haven't. Okay. I learnt about a character that I described as Pete, who's got a hangover. And my idea is you should always write for Pete. You should always write for someone as if they've got a hangover because they're only using a quarter of their brain. Now, it's not that our people have got hangover or that they're drunk at work. Of course not. But it's a question of realizing what you're up against and what your message is up against and honing those skills. So we are suffering massive data overload, and guess what, it can only get worse. You know, we presumed, you know, years ago it was never going to get any worse, and it did, and it's going to. So have a look, how many newspapers do you think there are there? God knows, a lot. But it has been estimated that we receive the daily equivalent of 174 newspapers, including ads, every day. So all of that information is not only what we are as consumers receiving every day, but what our stakeholders are receiving every day. They're receiving on average 121 emails. I know that many people are receiving over 200, and the more senior you get, the more emails you get. So if you're trying to make a difference and talk to all those stakeholders that we said just now, we really want to talk to our senior stakeholders, why aren't we? Well, we have to work to be able to get through to them. And there are skills you can develop to be able to get your message through. So you'll see that a lot of this half of this webinar is about what you can do with your work, but half of it's about how you can get it into the right hands in the right way in order to make a real impact and to get your spiral moving in the right direction. Now, the other problem with this is this lovely goldfish. Does anybody know how long the attention span is of a goldfish? Do type in, if anybody knows, an estimated guess. Well, Microsoft did a study. 10 seconds. Very good. Very close. Maybe it used to have 10 seconds and it's got worse. Who knows? But let's have a look. The Microsoft study revealed the following results on human attention span. Now, first of all, it's really important to appreciate that, you know, when we're in a state of flow, you know, we can have, frankly, not just 45 minutes, they say, you can have an attention span for a long time. But if you're just spinning through emails to work out what you're supposed to be engaging with and whether you're reading emails, how many people read all the way to the bottom? Hardly anybody reads all the way to the bottom. So our attention span used to be 12 seconds in 2000. In 2013, it's 8 seconds. And goldfish is 9. So yeah, and Bardia Taylor gets the prize for guessing how long an attention span is for goldfish. What basically this means is, is that, yeah, we would send you a goldfish, Maria. Basically this means that nobody's paying any attention to what you're saying. And so impact is incredibly important. And impact's not just by shouting loud or putting things in red, or, you know, there's lots of clever ways to be able to do this to get cut through. But it's so important. The fact that you've sent something and delivered it is not the aim. You sent it in order to get a result, didn't you? So what I'm saying now is this skill of being able to get attention in the right way and without being annoying is incredibly powerful and significant in business these days. So we are saying we have the equivalent of 174 newspapers worth of data. I mean, God, how long does it take you to read one? And that is larger than the attention span of a goldfish, which is what we're currently working with. So we need to change our skills. We need to improve them. So if your worth depends on making an impact in the business, you know, how are you going to cut through? Really significant. At this point, I'd like to ask you a question. And this is the question that Alice asks in Alice in Wonderland. It's one of my favorite books because it's super weird. She asks of the Cheshire Cat, if you don't know this, the Cheshire Cat appears and disappears. It's a very surreal kind of, I don't know, druggy, frankly, kind of book for children, written 2 centuries ago. Anyway, she says, would you tell me please which way I ought to go from here? And this is what we might say to ourselves. And the Cheshire Cat, who's always wise, but always gives slightly strange answers, that depends a good deal on which way you want to go. And Alice says, well, I don't care much where. And then the cat says, well, it doesn't matter much where you go. And she says, well, so long as I get somewhere. And then the Cheshire Cat replies, oh, you're sure to do that, so long as you walk long enough. And so insights departments will invariably move forward somewhere. They will evolve. So do you want to drive the direction that yours is going in? And that's the biggest question, is that you have a say in which way that spiral is going, and you have a say as to whether it's going in your favor to take you closer to the business or further away, greater budgets, greater opportunities, more rewarding work, less rewarding work, more being told how, being called in at the last minute, or driving things. And you get a choice of which way you want to go. That you need to have some help to turn this around, but it's perfectly possible to do so. You can probably see from the skills that I've highlighted where the skills shortfall has been that has allowed the departments to start to move around the wrong way. But you can resolve that by turning them around the other way. So let's have a look. Insights and analytics trade in gold. Remember that you've got gold in your hands. That is where the growth of the business lies, in the stuff you're holding in your hands. But is it being recognized? Is it being acknowledged? And is it being used as the power behind the business? If it isn't, then it can be. And wouldn't you like to do something about that? So I have some ideas here about which way you want to go. Do you want to go more towards the back room, reacting rather than leading? Do you want to be compromising rather than have autonomy in the way that you work? And things are going to get more so. Whichever way it is, it's going to get more so. Do you want to be supporting the business or helping drive the business? Do you want to be delivering information or delivering commercial results? And I mean commercial results in your insights, your opportunity identification, your blueprints for action that you're handing over, deliver commercial results to the bottom line of the business. Do you want to be an afterthought? Do you want to be first on board? The spiral is always turning. Which way do you want it to turn? So how can I help you power up? If you want to work with me, obviously, I'd be absolutely delighted. If you just want to talk about it, I'd also be absolutely delighted. I've got a range of things here, from a diagnostic as to how your business could be running and your department, and resulting in a short report, through to half-day training sessions on delivering solutions and how you can move from, in a really powerful way, from those analytics through to leading with commercial solutions in a really upfront, commercially loaded way. I've got positioning for your department and what that means in terms of how you can really make a difference to the business, and we're all being asked to say how we can make a difference to the business. We've got on the right hand side here, we've got how we can help people develop relationships with stakeholders that make a difference, and how we can empower people as we talk, and how we can switch our minds around to how things are received, to how we can make a difference for others, because the best way to achieve your goals is to empower others to achieve theirs. We've got coaching, individual coaching, group coaching, should you wish it, and a whole influence program, should you want. So you can go from the smallest to the grandest. You can start one place, start another place. You can do some analysis with me to find out where you should be starting. So all of those things possible. I hope that there's some of those that will be helpful for you. I would love to be working with you and your team to see what we can do to get that spiral spinning fast round in the right way for you and increase the effectiveness of your business. These are some of the clients that I work with and some of the things that they've said. I'll leave that on here for you to have a little look. One of my favorites is probably Tui's on the right hand side that says things change straight away. I'm about practical change rather than theoretical change. I'm about making a big difference in real terms. So as you can see, worked with Woolworths and Metcash and Arnott's on the client side, on the supply side, getting them, of course, to be able to deliver in a commercial way, working with WPP and Kantar and Lewis and Forethought. So working both sides to increase the commerciality of what we do and make it more effective. So cool, that's all. If you would like to ask any questions, please do, just drop them down. And yeah, thank you so much for attending. I'll sit for a little while and see what questions you've got, or if you want to send me an email. Yep, we'll share the slides for sure, Bhavya, and any other questions you've got, please do let me know and I'll be happy to answer them. Cool. Thank you very much for attending. Sure. Oh, thank you very much, Shilpi. That's great. Good. Very useful, very relevant, lovely. Okay, thank you very much for your kind comments. That's fantastic. Okay, great. Thank you, Adair. That's good. Lovely. Lovely session. Thanks again. Good. Excellent. Okay, I hope it's useful. I'll say goodbye.